Hey beautiful people, my name is Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today I am so excited to welcome some amazing ladies who are going to share their insight about faith and culture. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves.
My name is Berthrude Albert and I'm so glad to be here. I work with a nonprofit called P4H Global that works at training teachers in Haiti. And I think this is a very incredible time and topic that we're going to be talking about.
Awesome. Thank you, Berthrude.
Of course.
My name is Ashley. I am a teacher of girls, and I've been following the Lord for about 9 years now, and I'm super excited to be talking about this because I think it's very important. So.
Yes.
Nice.
Hello everybody, my name is Leandria Devis. I just recently got married.
That's right!
I'm learning to say that name, that last name.
Yes, girl.
I have been following the Lord, I want to say maybe 11 years. And I currently live in West Palm Beach. I moved there about a year ago and I work at Palm Beach State College. So it's been a good change.
Wow.
Nice. Thank you ladies for introducing yourselves and being here. Today, if you haven't guessed, I'm sure you can tell by the title of this video, we are going to be talking about diversity in the church and, more importantly, what Black Christian women think about diversity in the church. So, let's jump right in. Leandria.
First question. What comes to mind when you hear the phrase diversity in the church? I would say that it depends on what church you go to, or it just depends on what area you're in. Some churches are completely white, some churches are completely black, and there's some churches that have a very good mixture. So I would say that there is diversity, but I don't know how much diversity there really is. With being in Florida and living, in Gainesville, Miami, those are areas where you have a lot of different types of cultures. So you can find churches that have more diversity. But in other areas, I'm sure it's more segregated.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Got you.
Oh, you're definitely right. I mean, even with that, the word diversity in and of itself carries so much weight. We can be talking about diversity with lived experience, diversity culturally, diversity intellectually, diversity in so many different ways. Naturally, because of my lived experience, I'm thinking of diversity as it pertains to like ethnic background. And when I think of diversity in the church, I feel as if that it's a buzzword in today's in today's society. So many people are striving for it. I don't think we are there yet. However, I do think it's something that has been elevated.
I agree.
Yeah, I would echo that too. And I think diversity, I think ethnic background, having a nice mixture of different groups of people in the church, but also too, not just like ethnic diversity, but like intergenerational diversity. Is it all one age, or is it just like older people, younger people? And also socioeconomic status.
That's
and
right.
Just like a very affluent church. Can you have those where everybody rolls in their nice cars?
That's very true.
Or is it a church where we're reaching out to lower income communities, and it's a mixture of all types of backgrounds in that way too.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I thought of is this pseudo diversity? Like, is it just like a facade of diversity, or is it true like we are, different from different cultures, different backgrounds, and we actually live life together. Right? So I remember in Gainesville, which is a very college town, I remember feeling like it was a little bit more diverse. Like even my roommates were all from different like socioeconomic statuses, backgrounds. And so that's what I think about. And it's interesting moving back to South Florida, I'm like, I think this is something that, the church is still trying to figure out. Like you said, Berthrude.
Definitely. And there's one thing to have a church that is diverse with the people in the congregation, and that's something that we should all be striving for.
Yeah.
But when I'm thinking of diversity, I also want to think about it as it pertains to the distribution of power within the leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think of, there's a thing called Arnstein's ladder of participation, and it's in the community development world, where it's basically like on the lower rungs of the ladder, it's very much just, you're just informing people that don't have the power. As you go up further, you get into tokenism, you get into placation, and then as you go further up, there's partnership, and then the highest rung, you see that there's full citizens control, where it's like, no, truly, the I'll say that because I'm black, the black people in the church, they've got power, like they've got final power to say and decide things, and I think that in today's church we recognize the ladder and we're trying to go up the ladder, but as it pertains to power in the church, I don't think we're too far. No, my lived experience tells me that we aren't far on that ladder.
I would agree, and I think you make a huge point with just leadership in the church. And I've seen churches that have diversity, like in terms of backgrounds, socioeconomic, but then the leadership is just one shade. And so it just makes me really think about, like, what example are they setting? Like, what example can we set for those in the church to feel as if they're being heard, they're being understood? Because you can really preach the message, you preach the word, but you have to live it out every day. And when you have people at the forefront who you can resonate with, it goes deeper. It goes deeper, and so I really appreciate all the leadership that all the churches have, and not calling out any negatives from it, but it's just being able to see that there is a match of diversity not only in the congregation but also in leadership that is so important too.
Yeah, that's really good.
And something else you mentioned about diversity for the sake of diversity. We have different faces here present in the church, but what's the level of interaction, between them, right? Do we have a lot of different people coming to the church, but then still kind of getting into different groups based on comfort level, because, tend to be more comfortable with people that share your common experience, or is there really interaction on all levels between them?
Why do you guys, am I allowed to ask?
Of course.
This is my question.
Okay.
Why do you all feel we are where we are as it pertains to diversity? Because I feel like we're all on the same page that diversity isn't where it should be in today's church as it pertains to power. Like, why is it that we're there?
I think, honestly, when we look at the history of America, when we look, we can't ignore it.
Yeah.
We are a byproduct of our nation's history.
Right. Yes.
Historically, the church, I've heard a statistic like that Sunday still in 2019 is one of the most segregated days. And so when we're looking at history, even when you're looking at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., there are a lot
I didn't know.
Right? When you're talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you have a lot of individuals who come out and say, well, he wasn't theologically sound, and this isn't necessarily a pastor who we should be praising. But when you look at historically that he applied to majority white, these seminary schools, and was not accepted. So there were a selective amount of schools that black pastors were even allowed to go to. So when we're talking about theologically sound, that's also a hot topic that we, might be something we want to discuss. There have been several, white pastors who have spoken out about black churches and them being theologically unsound. And I think for you to negate the history of this country, it's to me personally, it's not fair and it's inappropriate. Unless you're going to take steps and say, hey, I'm going to, take young black men under my wing and, young black women in cases, and we're going to, disciple them. Essentially, it comes down to discipleship. And so, those are some of my thoughts when it comes to the history of diversity. What do you ladies think?
No, I think to your point too, like churches have always been like central to the community in history, and if our communities are not diverse, what do we expect the church to look like? It's going to be a reflection of the community. So if we have black neighborhoods, white neighborhoods, Hispanic neighborhoods, we're going to have white churches, black churches, Hispanic churches. How do we bring that cross-section of communities, and I think it comes with the history too, you know. That is something that has taken place over our history. We've developed these exclusive neighborhoods because of the histories. Like, how do we think that connects to with the justice piece of it, you know?
It's good.
Diversify our communities.
No, I told you right before we started that I struggled with this idea of doing this talk simply because I didn't want people on the outside to feel like, oh, it's just a bunch of angry Black girls getting together talking, or that I've got an issue with the church today, or with the people of the church. Like, I absolutely, some of my favorite people are inside of the church, and I love that. Even the church I attend, I love it so dearly with all of my heart. But I think that exactly what you said, when you look at the history of America, 246 years of slavery, then you go into like 89 years of segregation, and now we're only in like about 65 years of like freedom stages. To feel as if America left that process unscathed would be wild. And then you think of the church, where we weren't just bystanders, we were active participants in every single stage. Of course, when we're looking at power in the church, it's going to impact who has power in the church. Even though you've got incredible people that love Jesus and love people so well, the system is affected.
That's a great point. That is a great point. So, Ashley, what was your question?
My question says,
we might have already.
I think we did kind of address this a little bit, but how would you describe the state of diversity in the American church today? I think we kind of already hit on that. Like, we have made some strides. There has been improvement, but we still have some ways to go. And even in thinking about this, I'm just like, well, what's our goal? You know, like, what would be the point where, like, okay, like, I think we have where this is how it's supposed to be. We got it. And I think, like, to your point, where everybody's input is valued and not just particular people.
Exactly. I think for me, it would be so beautiful if the church was taking like a leadership role in regards to diversity instead of just following society, right? Because that's what we've kind of been seeing. It's just like, you know, society says that slavery is fine. Largely Christians are like, okay, I'm kind of benefiting too, you know. So, but instead, because when we look at heaven and we look at scripture, we know that heaven's going to be diverse. Right. We know that Jesus came not only for the Jew but also for the Gentile, because we saw Gentiles coming to faith in Jesus. So I think my prayer is that the church would take a leadership role in terms of saying, hey, we want to see not only Black men and women, but Hispanics, Native Americans, you know, all minority groups discipled, so that they would disciple more. Because let's be honest, we're going to be the ones who are going to be able to communicate just godly life and godly living to people who look like us. That's right. You know, so I think that's one thing.
That's good, Jamie.
Yeah, when I even think about the church, I feel as if that the only thing that's perfect is God. And the church is perfect because God created it, but the people within the church is far from it. And that is true. And we're the people that have messed up what the church is supposed to be. And we will never be perfect, but I think part of that is just educating people. And even in seminary school, I didn't go to seminary school, but what is the education that is given in seminary school? Like, yes, it's about the Bible, but like, what are we talking about? Like, everything from all different aspects of life, different people. And I think if a lot of pastors were educated in that sense, there would be a different mindset. Because now it's just like, when I think about the millennial church, I just think about, you know, pastors, and they have different locations, and there's different campus pastors. It's just like, I don't know. It just seems like it's becoming a trend to do things a certain way. And I think that if we start educating people, if I learn more about like the church and the past history, I think I would approach things a lot differently than I have as of currently.
That makes more sense.
That's good. I love what you just said, Leandria. When I think of the question is the state of the church today.
The question was, the state of diversity in the American church.
Yeah. I have seen a lot of tokenism in the church.
Could you explain what tokenism is?
Great! Google. Tokenism, it's essentially having one person of color represent the masses of color. So it's like, okay, if we've got an all-white church, we've got the token black guy that comes in. Oh, we're diverse. Look at this. We're really spreading.
Remind me that. Oh, I have black friends. You know, I have that one black friend.
I can't hide that friend's black.
I can't be racist.
No.
Yeah, so that's it. Like, oh, we've got the token black person. Oh, we've got the mouthpiece. And then like there's another form of tokenism, placation, which is, okay, there are a lot of black people, let's appease them and let's do this thing for them. Not necessarily because this is our DNA or because we know that God is calling us to this, but because we want to make the Hispanics happy, make the blacks happy. They've been talking about this for a while. So I see a lot of that, but in regards to really making that part of the DNA, in regards to really seeing that to be the opposite of racism isn't necessarily not being racist. It's anti-racist. It's like being a mouthpiece against it.
That's
like
actually a really good point.
Active against it. Like as far as like seeing churches really adopt that and really being aggressive and being anti-racist.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you're right. I think a lot of people are looking at diversity like, okay, like we're gonna, try to welcome more people in church and, look like essentially the community at times. But in terms of being, taking a stand and saying like, hey, this situation happened recently and it was wrong and it was sin. And that even if the individuals around it, it may be popular for some Christians, to feel as though, you don't know all the sides of the story, it's okay to say that something was wrong, even if that person represents a minority group. Which I know it's not popular and we're getting into territory that can be really uncomfortable. So I think it goes back to kind of what Leandria was saying is when pastors are in seminary, I do think it's really important for them to learn this and study. Like, how are you going to address when situations in regards to police brutality and race come up in the church, right? Or whatever it is. So I think that is really important, and it starts at like what you were saying at the top.
That's right. And for the record, I think that we're all on the same page that we're not talking about a specific church right now.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, and let's be clear, all of us go to different churches except for you.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, give it that. But, we go to different churches. Not only, and what I love about you ladies in particular is not only do we all go to different churches, but we've also been brought up in different churches.
That's
right. We have different experiences with the church. So even though we're all Black Christian women, we come from very different backgrounds in regards to our faith.
Okay, my question is, Berthrude, why are you so amazing? Oh my God! I snuck that in there. I'm kidding. Ooh, I love this question. What are your thoughts about the white church and the Black church constructs today?
Wow. Well, I will, as someone that was brought up in the Black church, I know that there's a lot of things that I would say that we do in terms of like, this is theology, but it's just really tradition.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no basis behind it, but because we've been doing it for the past 100 years, it's part of how we see God and how we, function in terms of Christianity. So I don't have a specific, a specific thing at this moment, but there are some things that it's just, this is just tradition. Like, why are we still doing this? And where is the basis for it? So the Black church, there's so much good flavor in the church.
Yeah, that's
rich, and it's like it's so great to be able to attend a Black church and to be able to have that energy that's there. But there's also some things that I would say that is like, why are we doing this? You know, and is this what God has really called us to do? So that's mine.
When I think about white church, Black church, it does take me back to the history and like, why does this even exist? A white church and a Black church, and it really propels me to want to really understand like how we got here and try to like. Yeah. So it's not white church, Black church. We are the church. Like in the word, there was never a distinction. Okay, this is the well, maybe the church had a specific place. Like this is the church at Antioch. This is this church, but we are all one body. So I agree that it's cool. Like. And I think God is good like that, giving us all unique gifts that we can bring to the table, but I don't think they were meant to be kept in isolation. This is for the Black people, this is for the white people, but meant to come together to display the glory of God and all the different gifts that He's given us. So when I think white church, Black church, it makes me a little like, it makes me a little like, not disheartened or sad, just like, why are we separate when God intended for us to be just one church?
That's a good point. I think, thank you so much for that, Ashley. My perspective would be a bit more of, yes, I think ideally it would be great to have diversity and there isn't that separation because that's a representation of heaven. I don't know if we'll ever get there for two reasons. Number one, the church is oftentimes an expression of what's happening locally, and because like of how America is and how things like. There are always going to be pockets of different things going on. So that's a local expression. And I think the second thing is that, this precedes way before slavery. Precedes way before 1619, the first slaves here in America. It goes even back to like the Paleolithic stage, where or hunter and gather stage, where we just want to be people that are like us. Like there's safety in knowing that I'm with my clan. Hey, when we're going to go kill that animal, we've got each other's back. Because if nobody has got my back, I might die. It's almost like a survival mechanism. So you fast forward to 2019, and it's like you want to be with people that are like you. There's a comfort when I talk with Jamie, not just because of our lived experience, but you know what I'm talking about.
You get me at a certain level that I don't necessarily have to explain.
Definitely.
27 years of life.
Definitely. So I think that having Black church and white church, there should always be a striving. But I almost feel like there's something natural almost. Yes, I don't know if that's...
I agree. And I was going to say that because I think we can get to a point also with diversity where we're almost shipping in Black people to make sure the white church is more diverse, and trying to ship in different cultures where it makes sense for the church to look like the community.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. I think the church should represent the community. Now, I think we have certain churches that do not look like the community.
Yes.
When we're talking about that, that's a
Jamie.
Situation where
that's
okay, let's go out into the community and do what we're called to do. Talk to the lost, share the gospel. But when we're talking about the white church and the Black church construct, I think I do agree with you. In a lot of situations, it's okay.
I agree.
I think it's okay.
The caveat that I would add on is okay, if you've got an all-white church because that's where you up in Minnesota and
Okay.
No,
well, there's Black people in Minnesota, but
no, you're right. Sorry, my sister's there. My bad.
It's like 90%.
Exactly. Yeah. Idaho or something like that. So, if you're in these communities, that makes sense. But the caveat I would put in is, okay, then there are other expressions. Let's enter into maybe church planting.
Yes.
Let's enter into missions, not in the white savior complex of let me go change and make this. But let's enter into these different things that will, or maybe church partnership with churches across the nation that look like. There are other ways that you can
100%
do that.
Include diversity in terms of your outreach, right? So I definitely agree.
And I agree with you guys 100%. I think this is a really good point because there is the trend nowadays of diversity. You're supposed to mix it up, but there's this book. I didn't read all of it, but
That's a struggle. I'm with you.
It was called "Why Do All the Black Kids Sit Together?"
Yes, I need to look that one up.
Natural thing that you want people that are around you that look like you. That makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel secure in it, and having that in a church, like you said, Jamie, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
And it's just being able to. I think, as I was saying before, there are traditions that we translate over into theology that we have to question. But in general, it's nice to have traditions that you can have in your church that are just only like for you all. And it can be extended to other people, but it's just nice to have that comfort that you know that I can always go to my church and feel at home and secure and safe.
How do you think churches should go about fostering conversations of different ethnic backgrounds, culture, and gender diversity?
Hearing that question, I kind of think of like the micro and the macro. So the church as a whole can do these like large, big scale programs where, we have a forum or some kind of program where people come in and we speak about things. But I also think on the individual level too, like our members, what are our communities or our tribes looking like? Do we talk to our coworkers, to our friends and family that, may be a little different? So I think it's, twofold on that level as individuals because, us as individuals make up the church, but then also like church leadership, organizing and establishing those things, providing
That's true.
That's great. For me, I think that there are two examples that I really, really admire a lot. There's and neither one of them are like the perfect, this is it, but like they give me something to strive for. Number one, my church right now, the pastor's heart is he's a white man, and at the same time from the pulpit he is addressing specific things. And from the pulpit, it's not like this is the month that we're talking about Black people, or this is the month, like it's weaved into. So I think it starts off with this mindset of like, this is wrong, we're going to stand against it, and making sure that it's from the pulpit we're speaking these truths. And then I think of another example back in Gainesville. There's a church. When I think of social justice, I think of Greenhouse and how they have panels where they bring in people and give them the mic and allow them to speak. They're so innovative with allowing these different expressions to be spread with the entire congregation. So I think those two things. Number one, having it come from the pulpit and having like the leadership know and have a conviction against it. And then number two, having activities like these panels.
And opportunities.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Just being able to initiate that conversation and having from the leadership come down and say, I want to talk to you. And that means so much for the congregation to have the pastor say, I want to sit and talk with you just about how's life going. What I want to sit and talk with you about, how do you see or being a part of your life with the church. And those conversations mean so much, and it could just be one conversation that you have for that 1 hour that will last a whole year for that person. And that person will be invested in what the church is doing because they know that the pastor knows me, or they want to hear what I have to say.
Leandria, I love that so much. Like about a month ago, my pastor pulled me aside and he's like, Berthrude, like where do we begin with these type of discussions? And I've got to tell you, even though we haven't made a stride in, like we haven't done something specifically with that, it made me feel known. I was like, whoa, he cares. Like he's calling me on the phone, talking to me, asking me these questions. There's that desire, and you're right, it does something.
People understand time and the fact that a pastor is taking out his time or her time to do whatever and call you, that's like blows my mind. So people understand that, and when you understand that people value that, then it changes the game.
And final question, what are some of your thoughts when thinking of the future of the American church? So what are your thoughts when you think about the future? I know that we've talked a lot about like even the past, history, and present, but I think it's so important as believers just to be hopeful.
I agree.
And not, because even talking about these things, it could be like, yeah, man, this is the way it is, this is the way it was. But I think there's something good about saying, you know what, I trust in God. I believe that the Lord can do something in his people, and that we can be, you know, the ones who are leading, you know, kind of leading culture in a way rather than following. So just wanted to hear your thoughts about that.
Being hopeful, I think also just creating some type of change that is, that can continue. Because sometimes we want to do this big drastic change, and then it happens for a year, and then we're like, it dies down and never happens again. Figuring out what's a way that within whatever church you're at, whatever church, whoever's watching this, like what are some small steps that even you and I can do that can make a big change? It's not just about, it is, you know, leadership has a huge impact, but it's all about you and I, and what are we doing to make that change? What are the conversations? Like, even this, Jamie, like this is helping the future. Yeah. So what are small things that we can do each day to make it?
Oh, I love you. That is so good.
It was really good. It's true. It's true. Because I think we have these conversations. You go to conferences and things like that, and you have these mind-blowing conversations like, all right, I'm going to do this big thing by tomorrow. And then you realize, oh man, that's a lot of work. And I can't do it by myself. So what are like the small steps we can take? And then being committed to those small steps. Because we can be very forgetful.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Great point.
Hope. Like even as you're talking on like hope. If we've got hope, if we don't have hope, we don't have anything. Like that, there is hope, number one, in Christ, because Jesus loves his church. And Jesus is jealous for his church. He will purify his church, and his will be done through his church. And so in that alone, I say, yeah, I messed up. Yeah, everyone around me is messed up, but God has his church. But then secondly, seeing these glimmers of hope, like what I mentioned to, like these churches that do things and just blow my mind. I'm like, man, Lord, you're doing something so good. I'm sure in Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, there are some people who are like, nothings will never change. But that man had a dream, and look at like the benefits we're reaping right now.
So true.
Guys,
so true.
Things are gonna change. I believe it. I've seen too much good in today's church, in my local church, in churches around, for me not to be like, change is coming.
Such a great point, B.
Definitely agree with both of that. And I think it's cool too. Like you said, looking back at history, there were people groups that thought, they will never receive the gospel. Like this will never change. But then you see, like that person was persistent, continuing to share the gospel, continuing to live life with it, and eventually, like they received the Lord. You know,
that's good. Actually.
And like you said, there's a verse in Ephesians that just blows my mind. It's like it's how God's work in the church is a message to the principalities in heavenly places, and it's like, wow, you know, like you said, God's will be done.
Amen.
You know? And it's cool because we all are his children. It's like there's no more Jew or Greek, male or female. We're all children of God, brothers and sisters in Christ. You know, that doesn't mean that we lose our identities, but
our primary identity.
So I'm hopeful as well. Because it's in God's plan. Like, you know, Paul said, like, this is why I'm here, because God has called me to the Gentiles. And he's called all of us to that's our commission, you know, go and make disciples of all nations. So it's gonna happen. It's coming.
Definitely. And can I say one more thing? Like, if I know that I've felt this before, and if there would be any like Black people that are just so jaded by the church, and jaded by the systems, the messed up systems, I would first and foremost say that the church is messed up, but Tim Keller even says, like, just like a hospital. The hospital is where everybody that's sick, they go. The church is everybody that knows that they're messed up, they go. They're trying to find Jesus. So like have hope in knowing that yes, people are messed up, but then also have hope in knowing that if God is for us, one more time, if God is for us,
who can be against us?
You better preach. Berthrude. So that was an amazing conversation, and I really hope that you enjoyed just, kind of being a fly on the wall and sitting in on that conversation. And if you like this conversation, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. And also make sure that you comment down below. Let us know what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. If there's anything in regards to diversity in the church that you think we missed out on, definitely make sure that you leave a comment, because we want to hear from you. These ladies, I'm sure, will be, looking at those comments and replying back. And I'll also make sure that I have their contact information in the description below. So thank you for watching this video, and thank you ladies for being here today. I love you, and I respect each and every single one of you so much, and I'm so thankful to hear from you. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.